Hello. Hi. 3 years ago, my wife and I started a philanthropic business. We expected to lose some money, and we were fine with that. What we weren't fine with was losing all of our money. But that soon became a distinct possibility. The problem was that our employees had absolutely no idea how to work efficiently. So one day, my wife said to me, and she's in the audience, so I want to get this completely right, "The park was your stupid idea, so you better do something to stop the hemorrhaging right now." I took that as an intellectual challenge, not a threat. I immediately thought of grit, because I had just seen Angela Duckworth's well-known TED Talk, where she says that grit is the hallmark of high achievers in every field. Great. Maybe if our employees had more grit, they'd be more efficient. But then I thought about the rash of young men, especially for some reason in Taiwan, who were dying while playing video games. Surely being online for 3 days straight without stopping to eat or to sleep took a lot of grit. On the other hand, these dead video gamers were showing poor time management. In fact, I think you could say they were showing very poor time management. So I didn't think our employees needed more grit. What they needed was to learn to prioritize the important tasks and to stop wasting so much time on unimportant things. In other words, they too needed to improve their time management. So I read everything I could find on time management, but I was not impressed. The fundamental problem was that all the experts were recommending methods that were so complicated and time-consuming that the only people who would ever use them were already good in time management. That was not our employees. So what I needed to do was to come up with a method that they actually would use. And it probably was going to be an app, because they already were spending all their time on their phones. So then I thought about the people I had grown up with, gone to school with, and worked with. Why did some of them do a better job with time management than others? And I decided it came down to improvisation. Something always happens that throws a wrench into your plans. Your car may not start, or a professor may assign a surprise paper. To recover, you needed to be able to adjust your plans while keeping focus on what was important. It seemed that being efficient is a skill that people have to varying degrees. And unless I could figure out a way to provide our employees with this skill, our business would fail. But it also occurred to me that if we were having this problem, other businesses probably were too. So maybe there was more to this improving time management thing than simply helping our business and making sure that my wife did not kill me. Now, I probably should not say this, but when I was young, I spent a whole lot of time playing competitive chess. The good thing about that, it made me realize that playing chess and time management are very similar in terms of the mental process involved. Both start off with static to-do lists. With chess, you memorize opening moves and counter moves. So at first, there are no surprises. But eventually, you get to a position that you've never seen before. Now, strong players are able to visualize the game well in advance and use various as-if scenarios to figure out the best moves. In other words, they can improvise. Now, computers can use high-speed trial and error to simulate this ability, which is why computers are very good at chess and why it should be possible to make them very good at time management. So it's time to write the software. I started with the name. I like the theme of divine guidance. So I settled on Ophanim, which are a group of angels known for their wisdom and for never sleeping. I needed a way to track tasks dynamically because priorities may change a lot over the course of the day. Using an inventory management model seemed like a good idea. Businesses use traditional inventory management software to monitor the quantities of items like ingredients and supplies. You can also think of time as a quantity, but there's a crucial difference. An object of inventory, an item of inventory, exists on its own, so a change in its quantity doesn't affect the quantities of other items. In other words, if you use up a pound of coffee, it doesn't change how much bread you have. Time, though, is zero-sum. If you use up time for one task, you don't have it for any other task. So this meant that Ophidium needed to be able to manage trade-offs, which is not normally part of inventory management. This also created a tension. On the one hand, you want to take as many tasks as possible when you're negotiating these trade-offs. You want to take as many tasks into account as possible when you're negotiating these trade-offs. On the other hand, because effective time management means that you very well might abandon or delay a specific task, you want to be able to circle back and reevaluate the task while it still may be needed. I resolved this tension by dividing the day up into blocks of time called skeds, which are a few hours long. Ophidium will consider all the tasks within a given sked as a collection and prioritize them in relation to one another. Now just here I want to just say something about terminology. You may not realize this, but one of the great things about writing software is that you get to make up words and people will use them as if they're real words. And sked is a perfect example of that. When we first started, the developers who were working with me on Ophidium used the word with dread. But over time, things have changed. And now when I talk to them, it is sked this, sked that. And I understand they even talk about skeds at home with their families. Now, computers are good at math, so you want them to make quantitative, not qualitative judgments. Ophidium follows this too. The first thing you need to do is set up lists of the initial tasks you want to get done during each sked. Next, you have to tell Ophidium how long each task should take. But now comes the math. Ophidium requires you to rate each task numerically in various ways, including its relative priority, how important it is that it gets done immediately rather than slightly later in the day, and the mental effort involved. These seem to be the same parameters that people use when deciding whether or not to do something. Ophidium uses a special algorithm to calculate a score for each task based on your ratings, and then to rank it. And in fact, ranking tasks using multiple numerical parameters is Ophidium's first big improvement over traditional approaches to time management. They instruct you always to do the most important tasks first and leave the less important ones till later. But that ignores the fact that there are plenty of tasks that you absolutely need to get done today, just not right now. They also ignore the fact that two tasks may require the same amount of time, but differ markedly in terms of how fun or horrible doing them will be. When do you think the last time any of our employees volunteered to clean the women's bathroom? Exactly. The second big improvement is Ophidium's ability to monitor your world and to automatically adjust your task list. A good example of this functionality involves making yogurt, which is a great way to use up milk that's about to spoil. Say you have a restaurant that's running Ophanim. Because it's based on an inventory management data model, it can, of course, manage the restaurant's inventory. So every time you buy milk and enter it into Ophanim, the software will prompt you also to enter its expiration date. Behind the scenes, Ophanim will be monitoring not only how much milk you have in total, but also how much with each expiration date. And if it determines that some is about to spoil, it will automatically create a make yogurt task and add it to your current Sched's task list. The next time that Ophanim reprioritizes your task, it'll take into account the make yogurt task. Now, also based on personal experience, this functionality will also cause you to eat a whole lot more yogurt than you ever wanted to and force you to come up with extremely creative uses for all the yogurt you suddenly have. With setup done, Ophanim is now ready to manage your time. Every 4 minutes, it will determine whether there's enough time left in the Sched for you to complete your task list. If not, it will abandon one or more tasks, delay one or more tasks, or do both to put your Sched back into balance. It will do this by calculating a score based on your ratings of all the uncompleted tasks and then ranking them. I believe that if it works properly, continually reprioritizing like this using a computer should come up with exactly the same task list that you would come up with if you, and I'm going to say this as my 20-year-old daughter would say, if you literally had a computer for a brain. I want to close by stressing why this is all so important. Just realizing that one person might be much more productive than another person simply due to time management can change your perspective on a lot of things. It means that a skill that everybody knows about, but which schools and even parents largely ignore, can be a key determiner of success. It also means that improving time management might be a great way to reduce economic inequality. The first step in doing this is identifying what good time management entails. Next, you want to come up with a method to provide this skill to people who really need it. This is where Ophanim comes in. Ophanim was conceived as software for small businesses, but now it seems that it could be really useful for students. Instead of monitoring milk, it could monitor your paper's due dates and automatically tell you when to start researching, when to write the first draft, and when to write the final draft. In fact, with some tweaking, it could also tell you when to start panicking. Beyond this, it could analyze the grades you receive on a series of papers in terms of the relative amounts of time you spent on various paper writing activities. Perhaps you do a bit better when you spend more time on research and less time on the first draft. Point being, whether or not you realize it, certain time management strategies already work better for you than others. And if you don't take advantage of those strategies, if you don't manage your time, it will manage you. So on that note, anyone here want to help with testing? Thanks a lot.